Yes, Sandra, here too, we want everything about artificial intelligence, yes, of course, but it should be reliable, trustworthy, and sober, and certified. And Paris-Saclay is the best place to be, just where it should be, for this major challenge, which is also part of the French Recovery Plan. So I have a gallery of fabulous guests. Guillaume Avrin to begin with. You're the manager of the Department of Artificial Intelligence Evaluation, Testing and Certification for LNE. And we'll talk about all these other elements with a view to setting up the configuration of future rules. Loïc Conta, manager of data science and data IA and interaction, IRT System X. So we'll be talking about a platform for confidence in artificial intelligence. And then we got François Terrier. You're an AI program manager at the CEA List. And once again, we'll see that there's some major processes to be respected when it comes to empowerment of data, how you clear data, to be ethical by design as such in terms of artificial intelligence, and quite obviously to establish this confidence pact with artificial intelligence. Now in Duplex, we've got Sylviane Picard. Sylviane Picard is in charge of the research team on image processing and artificial intelligence at Safran. Hello, Sylviane. So you'll be online with us very soon. And then we've got Julien Chiaroni. You're the manager of major challenges, and that really does interest us for very simple reasons. Because Paris-Saclay has been given a mandate by the state as with this program called Confidence.IA or artificial intelligence. How do you secure, how do you certify, how do you make reliable all the data that you have with AI? So you'll tell us all about it. But to begin with, what is this challenge really that's related to AI? Well, thank you very much for inviting us. It's always a great pleasure to participate in an event that is organized by Paris-Saclay. So our challenges is innovation. And the idea is to give a preference to certain sectors of activity in response to some of the technological and socio-economic challenges. And this is related to trust and confidence. The state has decided to do its bit when it comes to securing and certifying systems that are based on AI. So how are we going to include confidence that are AI-based, particularly for industrial processes? And why Paris-Saclay, you asked? Because Paris-Saclay is a pool of scientific, technological expertise, and you have certain representatives really of all these ideas here present in the plateau. Besides, it's an industrial hinterland, and therefore you have here an ecosystem of all the strengths, synergy, skills in order to meet these challenges, which are both national and, in the long run, international, because we are talking about regulations, open regulation, and that's a regulation that is fundamental. I see the Statue of Liberty right behind you, so I suppose that there's something to be drawn in terms of artificial intelligence. How do we find all the leeway we need to set up this AI, which is confidence and trustworthy by design, if I may speak in this language? Actually, the major challenge is based on a very simple strategic roadmap, and that's where the crux of it all is. Once you've determined what you want to do, you just implement it, you roll it out with the right people. To cover the entire problem from start to finish, research, technology. And I think Guillaume will give us more ideas about this, and that is of assessment before you actually market this kind of product. That's also a major plus point. So that's what we'll include in our strategic roadmap. In other words, how do we deal with the problem on the whole, take a holistic approach? How do we use all the people who are already there to get them to work together and not against each other? So that's a new attitude that we had to bring in terms of a big challenge or grand challenge, major challenge. Yes, it's true. We are here not just to come up with theories and assumptions, but it's really to bring together academics, scientific, startups, manufacturers, so that everyone together can actually meet this challenge. So what are the next steps, please? Well, as I said, we've got three major pillars of strategy that we work on, and there'll be certain programs to back up our strategic pillars. So soon we'll be launching our projects officially. We are still in the preliminary stage, but there'll be an official announcement soon. So that's what's going to happen in the near future, following which we'll try and ensure that this ecosystem we've set up will be well implemented and will provide all the skills that we want, plus all the manufacturing that we want from a technical point of view, which is what the state wants and also everybody else, all the partners involved in it. So that would be all the deliverables, all the down-to-earth deliverables. So when you set up an ecosystem like here in Paris-Saclay, of course you want to make it go global. You want that global reputation to show that what we can do at a European level at least. Absolutely, and perhaps you can't really see it, Julia, but Guillaume, François, Eloïc, and Akias are absolutely nodding away under their masks and saying yes, yes, yes. Thanks very much for telling us about the major challenges, and we'll follow up with you soon. Now, Loïc, over to you. And Sylvain will also speak to us via duplex, because you'll be part of the next sequence. Let's try and see what this Confidence.ai program is all about. What exactly is it, Loïc, Confidence.ai? Well, it's a consortium of 12 major manufacturers and who, after this manifesto coming from yesterday, was also trying to implement a pragmatic system because we are a very business-critical system. So this project brings together the expectations of 12 manufacturers to change their design development environment for critical and complex systems to include AI and not to start brand new. They want to use their existing technologies because they have 30 or 40 years in these reliable systems that have trains running, cars running, and planes flying. So we would make a hybrid system with AI and include it, and to help them to change their process, to make it progress and develop, but do it smartly because they wish to maintain the older tools with their stakeholders and their customers and have faith in their systems. Just a silly question. When you're talking about confidence, what exactly is confidence? Of course, a user has to have faith in a system to use it. Yeah, but what is this confidence link or connection exactly? Well, that's one of the first tasks we have to perform, and that is to define it, I mean, it would mean something that's solid, that sounds easy to understand, and the complete control in time over its development, plus ethics, that we deal very fairly with all the stakeholders in this chain and provide some sort of faith in the engineers and inspectors who will be certifying that these systems will be operational and operable. So you have to define it, define also how we're going to assess it and how we're going to guarantee it. And I think Guillaume can help me on this one too. So one of the initial subjects would be how you define. We decided to use confidence or trust and sobriety because it was the most all-encompassing. Of course, it must be clarified, and recently the European Commission included some of these elements. You've got taxonomy, you've got deontology, etc., that have to be determined. Of course, they're the technical deliverables, but you also have these deliverables. Very important. Right, with Guillaume, we'll see how these different components can be plugged in together, because here too you have to put together, assemble this huge mechano, ethics and AI. Now, of course, within the project, I've understood that the idea is not to reinvent the wheel, but use existing know-how of our researchers, small businesses, industrialists, and so on. So now, in the coming weeks and months, exactly what's going to happen? Well, right now and in the near future, we are taking stock of all the existing elements in the engineering departments of all our partners. They've all launched projects in AI. We look at what's happening in labs also. We've sent out a request of interest already. There are methodologies, ideas that exist already, and which would be part and parcel of this confidence that we're looking for. And in the coming months, we'll be drawing up a first version of all the tools to establish confidence, the first version of this environment, which will be available at the end of the year for our industrial partners. And at the same time, we'll define the roadmap to help define this environment of confidence. Now, this roadmap will identify issues that we haven't really looked at today, and for which we require help from everybody around us, the entire community here. And then on the basis of existing solutions in startups, SMIs, SMEs, because they took a while to come to maturity, or others which are still bubbling away and which must be upscaled a little to deal with what we are doing now and not what they were originally meant for. So now, if I might, there's going to be Sylvain Picard. Sylvain, I'm sorry I mixed up your name. Anyway, you're the head of the research team on image processing and artificial intelligence at Safran. That's, of course, very important, because you bring in the know-how, industrial know-how, that's a must, and that we were just talking about with Loïc. So where does the challenge lie for you, Sylvain? Well, there's several challenges, and that would be access to new products. And since we're working on very business-critical systems and on their R&D, we must have complete control over the process in order to develop new products. We must have complete control, complete mastery of the system, while providing it with new capabilities and new use of it. So for what I understand, because this reminds me of something else, a buzzword, and that is digital supremacy. Here we are talking of products. We're talking of products and services that we can market right away. Now, quite obviously, in Safran, you have some expertise and some mastery over security. So what's your added value here, Safran, in this project? Well, Safran would be one of the guarantors, because there are other manufacturers who have their own know-how in the program. But we'd be amongst the backers, and we'd be part of the certification process that's required. And as you heard a little earlier, it's not going to be a revolution or disruptive, but the idea is to find a continuity between what we know and have complete control of and these new challenges and the new technology that artificial intelligence brings in. So we are like guardians of the temple. Plus, it's very promising because it's for us to develop these technologies in the system. We are the driving force as to how to invent, and extremely vigilant too. We are responsible, and we can't afford to let up the pace while having a perfect knowledge really of the system. Yes, of course, and then it's also a veritable challenge for the future, because what we are making with this artificial intelligence, is the basis of a new ecosystem of long-lasting, stable, sustainable links and connections, which will enable us to do things in terms of innovation. And so for the future, this is excellent news. Now, there's another term which I found very interesting. Very often, it's overuse, and that is of benevolence. However, you could have a community that could be working on this, the well-mindedness, the... Sylvain, over to you.
Oui, alors en fait, c'est...
It's more than a specificity. It's typical of team working. We are facing a very complex problems. There are different parameters that have to be taken into account, and we don't know of any company which can do that alone. And last point, for certification and trustworthiness, we have to reach a consensus. It can't be decided by one person alone. It's all a community that can say that following the process that has been implemented, they trust the process that has been applied, and they have all confidence to market the product. So the consensus is a result of a collective work. This is something that is quite well known from companies that do apply this trustworthiness system. It is in their DNA, to face difficulties together. And this in order to reach a common solution. So if I understand properly, we have to be able to trust each other to develop this trustworthy AI. You are the laureate of the Innovation Woman Award, and we are very happy to have someone like you who has taken the floor. Okay, let's go down the process step by step in order to see what is a trustworthy artificial intelligence system. These notions of stability and reliability of AI systems. This is in line with the recovery plan for embedded artificial intelligence. But first thing is to define the terminology. So how is this work being carried out? Good question, indeed. Good question, and difficult one. I will give you an example. Case of use that we've already addressed, which was to qualify a detection system for the rupture of the anchoring system on an oil platform. And this has been developed based on a neuron system with artificial intelligence. And the question was how to qualify it in order to use it in all confidence. Because if we do use it, but the anchoring line is broken, it can create a problem. So we have worked with a partner. We have defined the properties that had to be checked, because this is a system that is not formally specified. We have a set of examples, but we do not have an abstract model that tells us how that system should work. So we had to see what were the properties that we had to look for and that were qualified for that system. And then we had to set up a series of mathematical techniques in order to prove the presence and compliance with those specificities specificities. So we have to find a valid field of operation. And then we were able to say to the partner, if the system works in such conditions of wind and so on, then you can be sure of the answer. We can give you the element of proofs. And then that's, that's important, because then the person can go and see the proper authorities to see and explain how the system has been qualified. And then if you have some disturbances, you have to see whether the system remains stable or not. And it's a bit a question of know-how, but you have to be able to calculate those disturbances, but in an abstract way, in order not to run all the tests and characterize elements of robustness, so that now our partner has all dossier with specific elements, and these are the evidence that my system is going to be reliable. And then we will have the next steps, of course. And this is when it starts, this is when problems may appear, because you have security issues, reliability issues, as we've just said, but in the long term we have challenges, and I'm going to use a neologism, but security, this is the typical example of the autonomous vehicle that will decide or not to cross the pedestrian or the zebra area when there is someone crossing. And this is the case of new examples popping up thanks to the progress of artificial intelligence and autonomous AI. So is the idea to anticipate on the future? Do you want to define, as we've seen with you, Julien, and with Sylvain, you want to define the business challenges, but the legal ones as well? François, that's not the key point of our program, because this is a legal area, so you need to have experienced people. But this is something that is addressed by all of the community, with players explaining to us how far you can go from a legal point of view. Like saying this can't be CEA regarded as a liable or not. So the European Commission has already produced some regulations. So that's the people manufacturing and using the product that will be responsible for what is happening. And this is an important point. And then you have all the ethical notions. This is no longer a legal area there. And here we are talking about what is at heart of the matter, management of data and identification of the presence of third party or not. So you have a whole set of elements between validation, design, legal notions, ethical notions, and the whole assessment and certification part that have to be implemented. Certification is always versus a specific regulation, but we can see that we have to invent new ways to design certification, and that's quite new. We do not have a lot of recent disruptive technologies forcing us to change our way of qualifying products, and we will come back to that, because this is very important to understand how we can move on in those topics of regulation. But I wanted to ask you a question. Does it mean that because all stakeholders are going to sit around the table to develop this trustworthy AI, then maybe we could ask, the developers to take an oath, like the physician's oath, the Socrates oath that physicians have to take. There is a very interesting initiative that we have taken part to, and which is artificial intelligence for women, to make sure that when we are developing AI, we do not focus on a specific agenda, we leave all career opportunities open, because women are part of that. I guess you will agree with that. I do, because they have done a very in-depth work to explain all the elements that could lead to this situation. And they have developed a chart to say that some all the specific elements have been taken into account. So I've seen that, and this is very interesting, but this is only focused on a specific topic. Now, a charter like a Socrates horse, this is a bit complex. I'm going to talk for research. When we are developing softwares, we need to experiment or test a lot of things that are not going to be put on the market. So to apply too many constraints would slow down innovation and would prevent us from, coming up with innovations. But we have the EU regulation, and this is indeed a principle of precaution, because we have to be able to say that we are complying with it, and we have to explain why. Guillaume,
c'est vous qui notamment définissez, aidez,
you are the one defining these new standards and those new certifications of trustworthy AI. So this avenue for the certification, what does it look like? If we are talking about EU regulation on that topic that has not been voted yet, it's been submitted to the Parliament and the Council. We were talking about the difficulties of specifying the AI specificities. Well, that's the whole point of this text. The ethical text has been translated into elements that can be measured and quantified in terms of performance, risk analysis, and so on. So we've had a first translation of a general ethical terms into concrete elements. Now, the method to assess compliance has not been defined yet. There is something that does exist. It's called a self-declaration for marketing of systems, for systems with a low level of risk. So we will ask the developer to say that he has complied with a standard procedure, and he's the one saying, okay, I've tested it and I can market my system. And for more risky AI systems or more critical applications, we have certification. So compliance assessment is done by a third party, and apparently for high-risk AI, this is the direction we would take at European level. We already have notified a body that are in charge of carrying out this assessment. We have one for medical devices, another one for vehicles, and so on. So maybe we could have an organization in each European country that would enable us to adapt the existing tool to the compliance assessment. So do we have a timeline to set up those standards and those certifications? Well, from the point of view of the assessor, you have three things to take into account. You have procedures, protocols, metrics to measure and quantify performances and specificities of the smart system, and then you have tools, measurement instruments to characterize the systems. It can be formal evidence, it can be test benches that are being defined today. And the last step is the compliance assessment and the setting up of those certification bodies in charge of assessing those new products. So those three steps have been initiated. Some work has started, and there is a working group with 15 industry representatives there, and we should come up with a first set of documents by the 1st of June. So decisions are being made and are made quickly in this ecosystem of trustworthy AI in France and around the world. Thank you to all the people who have attended this session, including Sylvain, who followed our discussion even if she was remotely present. So now let's talk to another topic, Magic Lamp, that is supporting its customers with a new system. And we're going to have a look at what.
Bonjour, je suis Raphaël Lasserie, président de Magic Lamp. Nous traversons une période de crise au pluriel. Crise sanitaire bien sûr, crise économique et financière, mais également crise de confiance. La pandémie illustre bien que des sujets complexes, surtout quand ils sont sensibles, nécessitent des expertises transverses et complémentaires pour être traités correctement. Et toute faille ou incertitude au niveau de ces expertises vient détruire le lien de confiance entre les experts et les citoyens. Aujourd'hui, je vais vous expliquer justement comment chez Magic Lamp, nous concevons des algorithmes complexes pour être prédictifs, tout en instaurant un lien de confiance avec l'utilisateur. En particulier, nous travaillons sur un outil de simulation de la réponse de patients atteints de cancer du poumon. Ici, l'intelligence artificielle est utilisée comme un outil prédictif d'exploration de la complexité. Contrairement aux algorithmes classiques, le machine learning est capable de brasser de gros volumes de données de différents types. On parle de multimodalité, qui est ici nécessaire pour modéliser toute la complexité inhérente à l'interface entre oncologie et immunité humaine. Concrètement, il s'agit de prédire l'évolution du pronostic du patient à l'échelle individuelle en fonction du traitement que l'oncologue compte lui proposer. Sur un sujet aussi sensible, instaurer la confiance est fondamental. Pour ce faire, nous travaillons sur deux leviers principaux. Tout d'abord, nous évaluons l'incertitude de la prédiction de manière à savoir à quel point le praticien peut lui faire confiance, et nous travaillons également sur un module d'interprétabilité pour que le praticien ou le chercheur puisse comprendre quels sont les facteurs principaux qui ont influencé la prédiction. Trêve de long discours, je laisse à présent la parole à Antonin Penon, directeur technique de Magic Lamp.
Pour chaque patient, ici sur des données anonymisées, notre système va regrouper les différentes données nécessaires à la description du cas. Données tabulaires, données d'imagerie 2D, données d'imagerie 3D. Et va fournir une évaluation de pronostic à traitement fixé. Pour le praticien ou le chercheur, l'évaluation de l'erreur sur la prédiction va lui permettre de savoir quel crédit lui accorder. Tandis que l'identification des variables clés permet à la fois de conforter la prédiction vis-à-vis des connaissances scientifiques existantes, ainsi que d'identifier de potentielles nouvelles variables ou marqueurs biologiques d'intérêt, permettant de mieux comprendre le cycle cancer-immunité et donc d'aider dans la conception de nouveaux traitements. La quantification de l'incertitude et l'interprétabilité de modèles complexes sont deux des clés nécessaires à la conception d'algorithmes prédictifs, robustes et dignes de confiance.
Chez Magic Lamp, nous proposons notre expertise pour construire des systèmes d'IA de confiance tout en préservant la prédictivité et l'efficacité de nos algorithmes, que ce soit avec nos clients de tout secteur ou avec nos partenaires scientifiques, afin de relever les défis éthiques et réglementaires auxquels nous faisons face. Merci et retrouvez-nous sur www.magic-lamp.com.
Very concrete examples, especially in Océan Paris-Saclay, and now pitches for Spring 50, and we are continuing with Spring 50.